Thank you. Right, good afternoon, Year 6. Can you just check that in front of you, you have a booklet that says inventions, and you have a booklet that says English reading answer booklet, and that you have a black pen. And you check you've got all those, please. And can I remind you that we're practicing the idea that we're in the exam room, so there shouldn't be any talking or communicating with anybody else in the room. You need to be looking towards this way to myself or Mrs. Fox or Miss Barakta and the big screen, and you need to be listening carefully. What's the problem? No pen over there, ladies. Put your hand up so they know where to bring one to. Okay. First of all, let's fill in the front of this reading booklet. You can see it's got a space for your first name, your middle name, your last name, a place for your date of birth, the day, the month, the year, and then you also need to fill in Manor High School, and then this is a reference number, but the more you get used to filling it in, you'll get to know it, 8554043. Obviously, I'm not going to fill in my name and date of birth, but can you now, with your black pen on the front of the reading answer booklet, fill in your first name, your middle name, your last name, your date of birth, the day, the month, the year, Manor High School, and then the number 8554043. Can you do that? And then put your pens down, please, so we know everybody's ready to carry on. Once you've done that, put your pens down so we know that you're ready to start, please. And can I just remind you, it's really important because we're practicing exam technique and exam etiquette. And when you're in an exam room, you don't talk to each other, you don't look to get a reaction from each other, you stay focused. So, can we do that, please? Right. So the first part of this is going to be the reading paper, and I'm going to hand over to Mrs. Fox, who's going to talk you through the reading paper.
Okay, the first thing I'd like you to do is just open your reading answer booklet that you've just written your name on the front, and the first page has got instructions. So we're just going to have a look at and read out these instructions so you'll understand how we'll fill these in. Okay? So, does it need to go on the screen? I don't know, I haven't touched anything. Suggest it's on there.
You need to touch that.
Thank you. Right, okay, so the instructions page. I'm just going to start with the answer bit first, and I'll explain about the bit at the beginning. So we're going to start with, it says short answers. So, some of the answers in your reading answer booklet will be short answers. So some questions are followed by a short line or box. This shows that you need only to write a word or a few words in your answer. Then you're going to get several line answers. Some questions are followed by a few lines. This gives you space to write more words or a sentence or two. Then we get longer answers. Some questions are followed by a large box. This shows that a longer, more detailed answer is needed to explain your opinion. You can write in full sentences if you want to. And then we get some selected answers. For some questions you do not need to write anything at all, and you should tick, draw lines to, or circle your answer. Read the instructions carefully so that you know how to answer the question. Marks. The number under each line at the side of the page tells you the maximum number of marks for each question. It's really important to know how many marks for each question. I'm just going to explain the top bit again, the questions and answers, because this is explaining what it would be like in the real test. So you would have an hour to complete the test, answering the questions in the answer booklet. You would read one text and answer the questions about that text before moving on to read the next text. And in your summer exam, there will be 3 texts and 3 sets of questions. But for today, we've only chosen 1 text and the questions that go with that text, because obviously we're just explaining how it all works. Okay? So if you want to put your answer booklet to the side and then get your inventions, oh, I got mine, sorry, in front of you. And I'm going to read this with you, okay? So, all right. So, inventions. Think about your home and all the things inside it. Everything was invented by someone. Many things were invented to speed up housework. Some were made for our enjoyment, and others to help us communicate. A few make homes safer, while others make your house cleaner. The telephone. In 1849, Italian engineer Antonio Meucci made the first telephone. He came across the idea by accident when he was trying to find a cure for headaches. Meucci believed that headaches could be cured by electricity. During his experiments, he found that when the electricity was turned on, sound travelled down the wires he was using. Meucci discovered that a pair of small cones joined together by wires made a basic telephone. Soon after, a very similar invention was produced by a man called Alexander Graham Bell. Sadly, Meucci was unable to prove that his telephone was the first, and he failed to make any money for all his hard work. Okay, so I'm going to turn over. And we're going to read about the vacuum cleaner. The vacuum cleaner. At the beginning of the 20th century, cleaning a carpet meant lifting it from the floor, carrying it outside, and beating it until all the dust fell out. It was hard, dirty work. Surely there was an easier, cleaner way of cleaning. Hubert Booth, a British engineer, went to watch an inventor demonstrating a cleaning machine that blew dust from the seats of railway carriages. It certainly worked. The jet of air blew dust from the cushions into the faces of everyone watching. Booth thought that it would be even more useful if the machine sucked the dirt up rather than just blowing it to another place. So he put a handkerchief on a chair cushion. Pressing his mouth against it, he took a deep breath and breathed in a lungful of dust. Once he had stopped coughing, he turned the handkerchief over. On the back was a dark ring of dirt where his mouth had been. Using this idea, Booth bought an electric motor and pump, and in 1901 built the world's first vacuum cleaner. The toaster. Charles Strite was so fed up with burned toast that he invented a pop-up toaster in 1919. This meant you didn't have to stand around waiting for the bread to toast. You just put it in the toaster and it would pop up when it was ready. The television. Although the invention of television was the result of work by many people, Scottish inventor John Logie Baird is thought to be the first person to have produced an image on television. In 1925, he created a camera which was made up of a jumble of lenses, spinning cardboard discs, and electric motors. He pointed it at the head of a dummy called Stooky Bill. Amazingly, it worked. An image of the dummy appeared on the little screen. The microwave. During the Second World War in the 1940s, Percy Spencer, an American, was working on the radar, a machine used to detect enemy aeroplanes. One day, while he was working on this machine, he noticed that a bar of chocolate in his pocket had melted. He immediately realized that the microwaves from the radar machine had heated it. Spencer sent his assistant to buy some dry corn and put this right in front of the machine. Switching on the power turned it instantly into popcorn. Next, Spencer put an egg in front of the machine, flipped the switch and waited. It trembled, it fizzed. Finally it exploded, sending shell and yolk everywhere, including in the face of his assistant. Spencer designed his invention so that it was like a mini oven. The first microwave cost the same as an expensive car. In the future, now that the internet is being used more, people are inventing smart machines so that owners can control them by phone. Imagine being able to put some washing on by sending a message to your washing machine. One washing machine, which was made recently, can even call out the engineer when it breaks down. Okay, so you now need to put your answer booklet in front of you, and you need to find question 1. So, question 1 says, where could all these inventions be used? And for most of this text, you've been reading about the different inventions, so I don't think I'd find the answer there. So I'm going to have a look at the information, this paragraph under the title, and just reread that. And it says, think about your home and all the things inside it. Everything was invented by someone. Many things were invented to speed up housework. So there's lots of references to home and house there. So I think the answer to question 1 is, where could all these inventions be used? And I think it needs to be in the home. So you're going to write the answer as I do, and on that line, in the home. And that's the answer. So if you all write that down. Okay, so the next question, question 2, it says, look at the section about the telephone. What was Maiucci trying to do when he had the idea for the telephone? And if you notice, underneath it says tick 1, and the 1 is written in bold. So clearly I'm looking for 1 answer. So I'm going to go back to that section in my in the text, the telephone, and the question is again, because I can't remember, so I'm going to read it through so I understand the question. What was Maiucci trying to do when he had the idea of the telephone? And I'm going to read it. So it says, in 1849, Italian engineer Antonio Maiucci made the first telephone. He came across the idea by accident when he was trying to find a cure for headaches. So I'm going to have a look down, and the very first box says cure headaches. So I'm going to tick that box because that was mentioned in the text. And I'm only going to tick 1 box because I've only been asked to tick 1. Question 3. Look at the section about the vacuum cleaner. So I'm going to turn over in my booklet and find the vacuum cleaner. And the question says, look at the section about the vacuum cleaner, which I've done. Cleaning carpets the old way was hard, dirty work. What made it hard work? So I'm going to go back to the text to double check. And in the first paragraph, it talks about the fact that at the beginning of the 20th century, cleaning the carpet meant lifting it from the floor, carrying it outside, beating it until all the dust fell out. It was hard, dirty work. So the answer is obviously in there. So I'm going to write down for my answer that you had to lift the carpet up and carry it outside. I think that suggests that it's hard work. So you can write down with me. I could have also mentioned that you had to beat it, all right, to get the dust out. That would have been an answer as well, because there were two possible answers there. So, question 4 is still about the vacuum cleaner, but I'm still going back to my text because I want to get all the answers right. So, it says, what made the vacuum cleaner different to the machine that it was based on? And I know that Hubert Booth had been to see an inventor who was blowing dust from the seats in the railway carriage, and I can remember that he thought it would be even more useful if the machine sucked the dirt up rather than just blowing it into another place. So that would be the answer to question 4. It's different because it sucked up the dirt rather than blowing it away. Okay. Right, okay, I'm going to turn over to question 5. Right, question 5 says we're going to look at the section about the toaster. So I'm going to have the text in front of me so I can read it. The question is, what problems did the pop-up toaster solve? So the first thing that Charles Strike was fed up with was the fact that he would get burnt toast. And then he also talks about the fact that you didn't have to stand around waiting for the bread to toast. So he didn't have to waste any time waiting for the toast. All right. So they were the two reasons that the pop-up toaster helped to solve. In that question, if you notice, it says write 2 things. So we're looking for 2 separate answers. So the first thing I'm going to write down was the fact that he didn't have to have burnt toast anymore. Okay. So if you write down this with me. And then the second answer is that you didn't have to stand around anymore. So you don't have to stand around. I'm going to put waiting at the bottom. right, Nikita?
I'm just asking, do you need to put weights at the bottom, or can you just leave it?
Say this again, Nikita, sorry.
Do you have to put weights on the bottom?
No, that's fine, because the examiner would, the fact you've said you don't have to hang around is fine. Okay? Right, we're going to move to question 6. So, the question says, look at the paragraph beginning, next Spencer puts an egg, and it talks about how does the writer make this paragraph exciting, but the thing I'm noticing to start with is I need to give 2 ways, so I'm looking for 2 different answers. So, we're not given a paragraph number, so I'm just going to double check all the headings of my paragraphs. So, it's not the vacuum cleaner, it's not the toaster, we've looked at that, so I'll turn over. With the television, that's not it, it's not that one. And now we're looking at the microwave, it's not that start to that paragraph, or that one, but it's here, it's this one. So I'm now in the microwave section, and I'm looking at that paragraph, and the question says, how does the writer make this paragraph exciting? So I'm going to read it again to have a look. Next, Spencer put an egg in front of the machine, flipped the switch and waited. It trembled, it fizzed, finally exploded, sending shell and yolk everywhere. Well, I like those words, the fact that it trembled, then it fizzed, then it exploded. So I think they use some really exciting words, specific words. So my first answer about how the writer makes the paragraph exciting is that it uses specific words. And then I'm going to write down what they are. Trembled, fizzed, and then exploded. Okay, and then the other way it does it is that it uses simple sentences. It trembled, it fizzed, finally exploded. And that suggests that something's about to happen. So we could write for number 2, the simple sentences suggest something is going to happen. Number 7. According to the text, how might our machines be controlled in the future? Well, there's that paragraph in the future, so I don't have to read through the whole text. I know where I'm going to go to. And it suggests that we can control by phone, and we can use the internet to send messages. So I think that's going to be my answer. So I'm going to write down that our machines can be controlled in the future through the phone, using the phone, and internet messages. Right, question 8 says, in what order do the inventions appear in the text? And I've got to have a look at all these answers down here because I can only tick one box. So, in order of importance, I don't need to go back and check the text because to me they're all important in the house. No particular order. It could be that one, couldn't it, really, because they aren't really any particular order, but I'm not sure. Alphabetical order, well, if I have a look, it starts with the telephone, and then it goes to the vacuum cleaner, and I think, oh, could be alphabetical order, but then it goes back to the toaster, so obviously it's not that one, but the one it mentions is chronological order, so I'm just going to go back and just check if that's the right one. So we've got, the first one was invented in 1849, then the vacuum cleaner was the beginning of the 20th century, 1901. Oh, then the toaster is 1919, so it's definitely looking to be chronological order, and then the television is 1925, and then I could check with the microwave the 1940s. So I think the right answer there is chronological order. So I'm going to tick just that one box. Right, question 9. Who invented what? So I just have to fill in the missing information. So invention, the vacuum cleaner. So I'm going to really quickly find the vacuum cleaner, and we know that it's Hubert Booth. So I'm going to write his name in that box. Hubert Booth. And then it talks about Charles Strite, and straight away on that same page I can look for the keyword, and I've got toaster, and I can see Charles Strite's name underneath. So he must have invented the toaster. So I'm going to write the toaster here. So we now need to find out what John Logie Baird invented. So I've turned over because we've looked at the first two, so it's got to be some of the later inventions. So I'm looking at the television, looking for my keyword, and I found it. Scottish inventor John Logie Baird. So he must have invented the television. So I'm going to write the television here. And then the microwave, again, I'm now looking for the inventor. So I'm going to look for the keywords, and I've got it on the second line. So we've got Percy Spencer. Okay, so he must go next to the microwave. So, you're doing really well. We're just down to question 10. Which two of the inventions were invented by accident? Well, I can remember one already, because I can remember the microwave, because I loved the idea that it trembled and it fizzled and then it exploded. So I know that already. So I'm looking at the text anyway. I'm just double checking because I don't want to get anything wrong. And it certainly mentions that that was done by accident, which we know. So I'm going to write down the fact that the microwave was one of the inventions invented by accident. But the other one I don't know, so I'm going to start right at the beginning again. Okay, to read through the text, to find another one that was invented by accident. So I'm going to start again at the telephone. In 1849, Italian engineer Antonio Meucci made the first telephone. He came across the idea by accident. Right, so that must be the second one. So with question 10, number 2, I'm going to write down the telephone. And then the very last question. Where would you expect to find this text about inventions? And again, I'm asked to tick just one box, the ones in bold. So I just need to find one answer. Well, I'm not sure they'd be in a diary, because that's not really the kind of style of writing you'd have in a diary. Certainly not in a storybook, because there's sort of too much information. A non-fiction book, that's a really good possibility. In an atlas, it's not going to be in an atlas. So by process of elimination, I think it's going to be in a non-fiction book. So I'm going to tick that answer. Okay, so that's the end of your reading practice, but in your SATs you would have 2 more texts to work through.